Books presents an unabridged recording of April Morning by Howard Fast, narrated by Jamie Haynes.
The afternoon. When I turned back to the house, my father called after me and asked me did I figure that I was finished. "I figure so," I said, and then my father said, in that way he has of saying something that cuts you down to half of your size, or less, "Slow to start and quick to finish." He said it plain and quiet, but it was of a piece, and it reminded me that I couldn't think of a time when he had said something pleasing or gentle with love or concern, and I replied to him, but not aloud, for which I didn't have the guts at all, "If just once in all my born days you'd say a good thing to me, then maybe I'd show good to you, and be able to do what you want me to do, and maybe read your mind, or your soul." But aloud I said nothing, just began to walk toward the house, and his voice coiled after me like a whip around my ankle. "Adam?" "Yes, sir." "I'll have you talk to me face to face, not into the air with your back to me." "Yes, sir," I said, turning around. "Draw your mother's evening water and bring it to her. Wasted steps are like wasted thoughts, just as empty and just as ignorant." "Yes, Father," I said, and I went to the house and picked up the yoke and walked with it to the well. The sun was cutting. That's the time of the day when the wind stops, and the air is so sweet you can taste it and suck it. But that afternoon, the time of the day made me think about death, and I saw a chicken hawk in flight and waited for someone, somewhere, to send a load of bird shot after it, but no one did. I thought of death, and was full of fear, and I just wanted to sit down somewhere and put my face in my hands and give in to the terrible, frightened feeling I had. But I didn't. I have all kinds of strange thoughts and feelings of that sort, and I guess I never talked to anyone about them, except perhaps a little to Granny, because I didn't really believe that anyone in the world ever had just the same kind of thoughts. When I drew the water from the well, I said the spell to take the curse off water, "Holy Ghost and holy hell, get thee out of the mossy well." My father once heard me say that spell, and he took me into the barn and gave me 7 with the birch rod. He hated spells and said that they were worse than an instrument of the devil. They were an instrument of ignorance. And I was foolish enough to answer back that if he was so sure about all kinds of superstition, why did he birch me 7 times, not 8 or 6? That was the way it was in the whole town. When you got the rod taken to you, you got it 7 times. I should have known enough to keep my mouth shut, because he replied that he was gratified to be enlightened, and laid on to me 10 times more, and then wanted to know whether I deemed 17 to be a superstitious number. So now I said the spell quietly, just moving my lips. A spell has no meaning if you only think it to yourself and never voice it. But quiet or not, my brother Levi, who is 11 years old, has cat's eyes. He popped up and demanded a drink from the bucket. "Draw your own water," I told him. "Don't be high and mighty. I seen you saying the spell. How would you like for me to tell Father that I seen you saying the spell?" "You're a little bastard," I told him. "Sure, and what did you just call your mother?" "All right, take your drink and leave me be." "Why don't you stay out of my sight? I'd be happy to God if only you'd stay out of my sight." I took a drink too. The water is always best, cold and crackling when you first draw it. When I came into the house, Mother was frying donkers, and the kitchen was full of the smell. You save a week's meat leftovers to make donkers, and then it's chopped together with bread and apples and raisins and savory spices, and fried and served up with boiled pudding. I don't know of anything better. When my mother saw me come in with the yoke, she took the water off and smiled her gratitude. "You're a good boy, Adam," she said. I didn't tell her that it wasn't my idea. I needed for someone to think something good about me, and I didn't want to disturb her thinking. When I ate some of the raw meat stuff, she slapped my hand. When I sat down, she said, "Are you going to stay here and fill my head with your nonsense?" "What nonsense? I haven't said a word." "That's just it, Adam."
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.